It is Glocktober, so I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to go over my favorite Glock build, and that is this particular Glock 19 Gen 5. And as you can see, it's been highly modified, even though all the internals are completely OEM. But the accessories that I put on it definitely makes it a heavily modified Glock 19. And this is going to be a little bit longer video like most of my videos are. And I just kind of want to go over the components, why I chose the components, and what benefits they offer to me. And just a disclaimer, none of these components or manufacturers know anything about me. I purchased this with my own money. I'm not sponsored. I worked a lot of man hours to purchase the optic plate, the comp, the flat, everything. Literally every single part, right? So with that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into the build, because like I said, I have a lot to go over in this particular video. And I think the first thing that people are going to want to know is probably going to be the Radian stuff, because according to my YouTube and Instagram feeds, there's a lot of people pushing the Radian Ramjet and the Radian Guardian optic plate. It's a little bit of a hype, right? But I think it's a well-deserved hype, because the features that Radian's offering, the benefits that you can get from these parts, I think is worth it, because they're very expensive. Radiant is always going to be very expensive. I don't care what they manufacture. Do I think they're a little overpriced? I absolutely think they're a little bit overpriced. But you get what you pay for. And just the fit and finish, the machining, the innovation, the thoughts, and it's a well thought out design that Radian's put into the actual parts. And that's the Radian Guardian with the 6 sights and the Radian Ramjet. So I had another optic plate on here from CH Precision. It worked just fine. It was made out of steel. I'm not a big fan of the Glock MOS optic plates, because this is a Glock MOS slide. So I always buy an aftermarket optic plate for my Glock MOS slides. In fact, I ended up putting my CH Precision RMR plate on this Glock 40 MOS, and it works just great. I also put the 507 that I had on there, and I stripped the screws, so that's why it's all mangled there. But anyway, what benefit would you get from the Radian Guardian and 6 optic plate and sights? Well, first thing, it's not made out of steel. It's actually going to be made out of aluminum. Do I think steel is going to be a little more durable? I do, but it's pretty thick, at least in this guard up front. I don't see that flexing or anything, but the weight is actually going to be, I think, the same weight as a steel plate. So you're not actually adding any weight to your weapon system. Some people like to add a little extra weight to help with recoil. However, I'm not a big fan of adding a ton of extra weight onto the slide, as it can affect the recoil impulse and the reliability of the weapon system if it wasn't designed for that extra weight, I should say, right? Another thing that I didn't like about the CH Precision plate, I won't say I didn't like it, but in order to co-witness iron sights, you have to run suppressor height sights. So you have a little bit taller sights, which is going to get in the way of the window just a little bit more, right? But with this particular optic plate, you can have a lower sight picture that doesn't get in the way of your actual window of your optic. As you can see, it's definitely at a more or less a lower 1/3 instead of an exact co-witness, which I really like. I also like the front facing backup sight, although in function, it's going to make the pistol a little less accurate if you're utilizing your iron sights. But I think most of us are going to be using that dot instead of the iron sights, and the iron sights are just a backup. So I like how the back, you don't have anything that's going to occlude the optic window in the back, and it's just a little less busy, in my opinion, right? They also give you this little dovetail to put back into the back of your slide where your sight used to be. I had to take out my, I had Trijicon suppressor height night sights on this, and they also have this nice front sight too, which is pretty nice looking, right? And they're just blacked out. There's no night, there's no tritium in those sights or anything. But they're pretty low profile, and I do like how they add just a little bit of form to the sight itself. It's just good looking sights, right? And I think it's a good looking optic plate. It adds a little bit of traction on the actual window itself, so you can rack it off of things if you want to. I think that's a little bit of a gimmick, as the RMR is pretty durable in itself, but I do like it for its other features. I like the, like I said, the backup sighting system, how it sits a little bit lower. I like how the RMR is being mounted onto the actual plate, and how they did it. They have a screw that goes in on the bottom, and then these top portion screws. These aren't a screw that goes all the way down. You have a screw that goes up, and then these caps are threaded here, and you just thread those on. It's just a very well designed optic plate. So you have a push and pull method on your actual optic, and this optic isn't going anywhere. So that's the first time I've seen a mounting system like that, and it's a little confusing at first, especially if you're used to installing other optics onto plates where you're just screwing down, little screws. I'll show you here. These little screws here, these are what typically will go on onto an optic, and you can see just how much larger those screws are. They're just a much better screw, and to me, the confidence that I have in the actual optic not losing zero, especially if I'm carrying this, if I'm beating it around, if it's rolling around in a car, in my holster or whatever, if I'm racking the actual plate off of something, or using this to rack it instead of doing my cool press checks and stuff, I just have all the confidence in the world that this optic isn't going to lose zero, right? So my only complaint, not my only complaint, one of my complaints is I wish they could have lowered the optic just a little bit. As you can see, it sits pretty, I don't know, that might be a millimeter or two down from the actual slide. I think this sits a little further up than the CH precision plate, right? I think the CH precision plate is just maybe a little bit like a millimeter further down. But in order to do that, you kind of have to get a direct mill slide in order to get your optic a little bit further down. And you can achieve the same lower 1/3 co-witness. Night vision makes lower 1/3 co-witness sights for direct mounting optic plates for Glock. So there is a way to do that. However, if you buy the actual night vision sights, you buy the CH precision plate, not CH precision plate, but you direct mill your slide. It's about $100 to direct mill your slide, and it's about $100 to $110 for the actual night vision sights. Well, the Radian Guardian and the Six sights, they were $180 for me. I think the MSRP on the Radian Guardian 6 is like $200 or $210. Some people consider that expensive, and while it is expensive, a good optic plate is going to be between $60, $80, maybe even up to $100, depending on who you're getting your optic plate from. And a good set of sights is going to be somewhere in the realm of like $50 to $100, depending on if you want night sights or tritium or high definition sights, whatever your flavor is. So the prices can vary a little bit, but it's kind of nice that it's an all-in-one package. You don't have to think about anything, and it's all included. And they also include, like I said, this little dovetail, so you don't have an empty slot on your back, where your back sights used to be. So that's the Radian Guardian. And let's go over the Radian Ramjet and Afterburner combo, because this was like a part that I was really interested in, as I do really like comped guns. I've got a couple of different comps for my Gen 5 Glocks. I've got this Suarez Street Comp. I put this on here. I really like the Suarez Street Comp for the price. These are very inexpensive. They work well. I haven't had any issues with this comp. I think it's a well-made comp for the money. I have a Arc Division comp, and I have an agency comp. And that's the threaded barrel design comp, not their micro comps. And I think, like, who is it, Parker Mountain Machine makes a micro comp like in the same length as this Radian Ramjet. So there's 3 competitors if you want like a nice compact barrel and comp combo, and you do have to buy all 3 of those manufacturers will make you buy a barrel and comp with in order to get it a nice compact size like this. And this is only a 17 length slide when you add the comp. For example, this is a MR920L, which is a 17 length shadow system slide, and it is a 17 length slide. And for example, a regular comp, most other comps are going to be basically double the length as these micro comps. And most of the other comps, minus like the Arc Division, actually will wrap around the OEM Gen 5 slides, whereas I had to buy a Gen 4 because of the Killer Innovation slide on this. So the other comps do offer some of the same features as this particular comp, where like this wraps around. It's really well made. Like, it looks like this was made and designed for this particular weapon system, as opposed to just being an afterthought. I really like how that mates up, and it doesn't hit the slide, but it just fits like a glove. It's just a very smooth barrel comp combo, right? Let's get something out of the way. So the barrel and the comp combo are very expensive. In fact, you're almost going to pay the price of a brand new Glock 19 Gen 5 for just the barrel and comp. I believe the MSRP on it's like $389 for the barrel and comp. I was able to pick the Radian Ramjet up for $330 or $340, which is still a lot. But I'd like you to consider the other options that we have out there, right? So agency makes a micro comp as well, but you also have to buy the barrel and the comp combo, and that is, I believe, $380 or $360. And then Parker Mountain Machine makes a micro comp. You also have to buy the barrel and the comp together. That is $360. They do run sales on those, though, and they're usually in stock, minus agency. At least the Parker Mountain Machine one is. So when you consider the other competitors offering pretty much the same length and most of the same features, it's right in the same price point. Now, the main downside that I found in comps, all the other comps that I own, is that you're going to have these set screw designs, where it has 2 set screws going into the threading of the actual barrel. You tighten those down, put some Loctite on the set screws, and you're going to want to Loctite your threaded barrel when you're tightening onto the comp. And you have to let the Loctite dwell a little bit so it seizes onto that and won't back off under recoil. So the maintenance for most other comps, or I should say all other comps, to me, is a pain in the ass. I like keeping my weapon systems as clean as possible. After a range trip, I really like stripping down my weapon system and cleaning it, maintaining it, oiling it in places. And the Radian Ramjet allows me to do that. That was probably the biggest selling feature for this. So I'm going to show you how this particular comp works. And I think it's an ingenious design, right? They have this little taper pen, right? And the taper pen just means it gets thinner towards the bottom. And it has a nice teardrop design on the front of the barrel. And it just pops right off. And there's your comp right there, right? Made out of 17.4 stainless, I believe. So 17.4 steel, as opposed to, I believe most of the other comps are going to be made out of aluminum. Now, I do think the Parker Mountain machine comp is going to be made out of steel. I'm not entirely sure what the agency one's going to be made out of. It has a nice dual port on there. It's DLC coated. I prefer DLC coating over, like, let's say PVD. Titanium nitride. All the parts that I've purchased for ARs, Glocks, other weapon platforms and stuff, DLC coating has worn the best, and I have found like it is just extremely slick. It's extremely easy to clean. It's just the best overall coating that I've experienced. So I prefer DLC over like a nitride, a QPQ, a melanited, any sort of PVD, any like a polished stainless or like a titanium nitride, right? The DLC is the way to go. You can see the nice machining work that Radiant's put into this. The barrel's a little bit fluted, right? Rifling on it's quite nice. And that teardrop design, man. And you can see kind of how that taper pin is going to work in here, right? Where as you're tightening that down, that's how it's going to lock into the comp here onto the side. It's a pretty neat design. Now the action on this Radian Ramjet is extremely, extremely smooth. In fact, I used to just keep an OEM Gen 5 barrel in this. And out of all the barrels that I've tried, aftermarket at least, for the Glock 19 Gen 5 and Glock 17, the OEM barrel always felt the smoothest to me. Right? Just the smoothness. It's just a very smooth barrel when you're racking the slide and stuff. And to me, the smoother action that you have, the smoother recoil impulse, like it's not going to chatter or jitter as it's moving down this reciprocating, I should say, after being discharged, right? So I do really, really like the tolerances, at least for this Radian barrel. And like I said, just being able to take off the comp, clean it, clean my barrel and stuff, that's really the biggest selling feature for this Radian Ramjet. And it just looks badass. The whole Radian Guardian, Radian Ramjet combo, it looks cool. And I'm going to be completely fair and honest. I like my weapon systems looking cool. Now, if I can get some good function out of it, that's even better. So I'd say this offers good flair and it offers good functionality. But you are going to pay for it, right? So that's the Radian Ramjet and Radian Guardian. Now, I did upgrade my optic. For the longest time, I was just running a Holosun 507. I like Holosun optics. I own a lot of Holosun, at least pistol optics, right? I think I own a total of nine or 10 like 507 and 407Cs. So I really like it's not a knock against Holosun by any means by me switching out the optic. The reason why I picked Trijicon is very well vetted. It's very reliable. It's very robust. There's some things I don't like about the RMR at least, but one of the good things about the RMR, at least right now, here in October of 2023, is that Trijicon's offered a $100 rebate if you buy an RMR. And I suspect that's because of the release of the RCR and the RMR HD. So I picked up this particular RMR. I paid like $389 for it, minus the $100 rebate, which I haven't received yet, so it'll take about 8 weeks. I'll pay after tax and shipping. I've paid like $310 for this Trijicon RMR, which I am happy to pay for. So I just went with black to kind of keep the theme. I didn't want to pay the extra, like it would have been like an extra $120 to get the OD green version. So I kind of wanted the OD green version, went ahead and went with black. But the Trijicon RMR is just, it's a well vetted optic. I just don't like I have to take off the optic in order to change the battery. But the batteries, for me, I change the batteries out after every 2 years, just because I have so many optics that changing out batteries costs me a lot more money than most other people. So I don't change them out yearly. I change them out every 2 years. I actually haven't had an optic go dead for me to change the battery on. So on my even birthdays is when I change out all my optic batteries. So that's just kind of how I remember it. Works well for me. But the battery life's fantastic on the RMR. There isn't much more about the RMR that I can say that other people haven't said. And then I did buy another flashlight for this. I put it on another weapon system only because I just liked how that fit on that better. And I bought a X300 Turbo. This is the B version. This is an X300 Ultra, and the A version, and the difference between the A and the B, if you don't know, this is definitely going to be like more of a, it's not a permanent design, but it's not as easy to take on and off as this. Same footprint. I found that I think all holsters for the X300 are going to be compatible. It's the same profile and footprint. The Ultra from the Turbo. It's just that the Turbo, I believe, has got like 550 lumens instead of the Ultra's 1000 lumens. However, I think this offers like 21,000 candela over like I don't even think this this Ultra has 10,000 candela. So you can kind of see the it's got more of a flood instead of a hotspot, and this is more of a center focused hotspot. If I could do this all over again, I just would get Surefire Turbo Bs. Not that this is a bad pistol light. I just prefer that Turbo B. I prefer the mounting on it. I prefer the beam pattern on it. I prefer the candela on the turbos. So the Surefire Turbo B would probably be the way to go in my opinion. Now, as I mentioned before, I kept all the internals OEM. So everything from the firing pin, the safety plunger, trigger bar, the actual trigger itself. I did have a Glock performance trigger, and I've tried some other triggers out in this, like a Zev trigger. Got another Zev trigger. I just like the OEM trigger, just the feel of it, just a little bit more. I kept the connector OEM. I mean, everything in here is OEM, right? Now, you might not consider, this is definitely not OEM, but this is just what I consider the takedown lever, and the two pins, and this slide stop slide release right here. That's I bought that kit together. I have found from my experience that The pins don't really do anything. Now the tolerances could be off, and they could be loose or fall out or something. That would probably be the only downside to buying aftermarket pins over the OEM. These are both metal. These are both Cerakoted and OD green, and I do prefer the extended takedown levers. It just makes disassembling the Glock so much easier, right? Just makes it so much easier. The factory ones, they work, but I have found that I have to be more aware of how I'm manipulating the slide and everything in order to take it off. And this, I believe, is a Vickers Tactical extended slide stop slide release. So what I was saying before, not all extended slide releases are created equal. I have had issues with some extended slide releases before. Tyrant's one. I had issues with one Tyrant, and it wasn't on an OEM slide. It worked fine with an OEM slide. It just didn't work very well with this Safiri Precision slide, where I was having an issue. The slide would lock back, but if I wanted to lock back the slide, I had to intentionally do it. And if I just barely touched the slide, it would drop the slide immediately. So it was just a very touchy slide release. And I don't know if it was because of Safiri Precision's tolerances or if it's because of Tyrant Designs tolerances, but whatever it wasn't working. So I went ahead and switched back to this OEM slide release, at least on that particular build. And you can see just the difference. I don't know if you can see that difference. The Vickers Tactical here is, I think, just a little bit longer in length through here by about 1 millimeter. I think it's like 1 millimeter. Right, so it's just slightly extended, and from what I can tell, it locks back very, very nicely. It feels like an OEM. You just have a little bit more of a surface area here to drop the slide and stuff. So I'm fine with that control kit that I bought for it. And then let's go to the trigger. You can see it's still a little bit spongy, but with the polishing that I've done on this trigger, or the internals, I polished all the internals, including the locking block and everything. It's a nice trigger now. Is it as nice as some aftermarket triggers? Not really. It's still about, I think it's about a 3.7 pound trigger pull. Still a little bit of a sponge right there, but it's nice. I don't have any complaints on the trigger, especially if you're shooting it fast. You're not going to notice that sponginess as much if you're trying to shoot this fast. And the reset's always been quite nice on the Gen 5s. So I just kind of keep it OEM. OEM magazine release. I did have an aftermarket magazine release. What I've noticed about some aftermarket magazine releases, if they're at least metal, is they're going to mar up your OEM magazines a little bit more, especially right through there. So I own a lot of Glock mags, and I've noticed that a lot of my Glock mags are getting marred up right there, right? I always run OEM mags if I'm depending my life on them, but I will use Magpul mags at the range of stuff to save on my springs. Got a ETS mag. I actually like how the ETS mag pops out and pops in. It just feels very good. I've actually haven't had any issues with the ETS mag, but as you can see, both the ETS and the Magpul, it's just straight polymer. There's no metal insert on them. That's how they save yourself a little bit of money. But I suggest just kind of sticking with OEM if you're going to carry a magazine or two. Just stick with OEM. I keep a lot of extra magazines on hand. So I got, I don't know, I could do this all day. I've got like over 20 brand new magazines for my Glock 19s and Glock 17s, and then I have about 25 or 30 Glock 19 and Glock 17 open mags that I just utilize throughout the time. So But I mainly just stick with OEM Glock mags, and I number my magazines and stuff as well. So um, just I would use a more permanent marking solution if you're going to mark these. I have to reapply this particular permanent marker, but it's a little hard to show up on black, so that's kind of why I use the silver. It just makes it easy for me to distinguish if I'm going to have an issue with a particular magazine. That's why I mark them and stuff. And I do use aftermarket mag extensions. Um, these shield arms mag extensions are really nice. I really like these. There are other mag extensions that have worked just fine for me, but I do like the shield arms. I've kind of kept the shield arms in this one. I kind of like the black and OD green theme. I mainly utilize this particular weapon system, this Glock 19, as my secondary when I'm using like my ADM, which my ADM's a black and OD green build. So do I theme my builds together? I absolutely do. But the little personal touches that I can add to this to kind of make it my own, I like to do that sort of thing. And then the back plate, it's an OD green anodized back plate. The only reason I got it is because it's OD green. That's not never really going to affect functionality. I just got it for looks. It was like a $10 part. I'm not that concerned about it. But what else? I was talking about the magazine release before I went off on some of that extra part stuff. Um, I just stick with an OEM magazine release. It just works just fine for me. The metal ones, like I said, they'll mar up the magazines, and I've had issues with two magazine releases, aftermarket ones, where I'm shooting and the magazine will just drop out of the weapon system, and that is definitely problematic. So I've just kind of gone back to mostly OEM magazine releases. And funny enough, I know people like to hate on Strike Industries a whole lot, but these magazine releases for their Glocks, I've had the best what do you call it, experience with an aftermarket magazine release out of almost all the other magazine releases that I've used. I've used about 7 different magazine releases for the Glock Gen 5 platform, 4.5 platform. And these are polymer, which I have to assume that's probably why I have the best experience with these Strike Industries magazine releases. But um, I haven't had an issue with them. So I wish more manufacturers would make plastic magazine releases, especially if when you're running plastic magazines, you want plastic on plastic, it's going to mar up just a little bit less. So if you do a lot of reloads like I do and practice a lot of reloads, I find that I will destroy the magazine bodies before I wear out the springs and stuff, if that tells you how much I'm practicing reloads and stuff at the range, at least. And then the last part that I can really talk about is this Overwatch Precision Magwell. I really like the Overwatch Precision Magwell. I like Magwells just in general, especially on the 19. It kind of helps push up my pinky, right? It just gives me a little bit better grip. I don't know. It feels very comfortable to have this Magwell on it. Not that it felt uncomfortable without it. The 19 is about as small as a size that I like to carry, but I like to have a full grip on it, and that Magwell definitely pushes up, and it just helps funnel the magazine in just a little bit more. It's a little bit expensive though for what it does, and I must say, choose a metal magwell over a polymer magwell, because all the polymer magwells that I've used, the front of it will flip up and down. It's just very loose, and then if you over tighten this back screw, the magazines have a hard time falling out and stuff on their own, at least. And I do like the low profile little backstrap screw that they put in this. Not everyone thinks about that. Like on this Tyrant, it just sticks out a little bit more, but it's not obnoxious. And this Magwell, it works just fine. Drops the magazines just fine. It's just it doesn't push my pinky up quite as well as the Overwatch Precision one. Although this one's roughly 2/3 of the price as the Overwatch Precision one. So I was also looking at Ed Sherman's design, Magwell that I might try out down the road. But from my experience, like Agency, Zev, and Overwatch Precision are really good Magwells. And I have friends that have bought the eBay specials, and they've worked. I've seen them work. They seem at least pretty good for the money if you're trying to save a little bit of money. I just want to put that out there. So, but anyway, that's my Glock 19 Gen 5 build, and I really like how this has turned out. Right? It's just a very, very good looking weapon system, very well functioning weapon system. On I want to speak on the comp. There is quite a bit more flash that I've noticed with the actual comp itself, but I do notice a difference in recoil. Not when I'm shooting like really slow strings of fire, but when I'm shooting rapidly, I can tell a huge difference in just the how well my sights are tracking. I can track my red dot a lot better, a lot faster. My follow-up shots are quicker. My split times are quicker with this particular comp. And you're really only going to benefit from a comp with when you're shooting faster, in my opinion. If you're shooting nice and slow, you're not really going to notice that big reduction in recoil. But I have noticed it, but I also have noticed more flash in the front that I wasn't used to, at least on my other comps. There seems to be significantly much more flash. And I don't think that's going to be an issue, but that is just something I did want to point out. So that's been my Glock 19 Gen 5 build in this month of Glocktober of 2023. And I must say, I think this is a good looking Glock. It's a well functioning Glock. I've been more than happy with this. I'm trying to not modify it anymore and just test what I have on it, because I'll change a part and then I'll start firing it, and then I have to try to remember how many rounds I have through each part just to make sure that the reliability is there for each part. Because if I'm going to really truly trust my life with this, I want to vet the parts as best as possible. So this has probably been one of my more expensive Glock builds when you consider the actual accessories. Like, I think I actually have more in this Glock build than I do this Glock build here, which is much more heavily modified, if you can believe that. So, because I've got good deals on this one. But I don't think there's anything OEM on this particular Glock. I built this out from a strip frame, and this has been a good Glock too. I've shot this suppressed with my friend's suppressor, direct thread suppressor, and it cycles suppressed. And he told me, hey, if you can shoot your 9mm pistol suppressed, it usually means it's pretty reliable. I did have issues with the slide locking back on its own, even with rounds in the chamber, but that seemed to work itself out. I have a feeling maybe that was because of the Cerakote and stuff initially, or it was a mag, because that was only really happening with one particular magazine right after I got the Cerakoted. So those are the only functionality issues that I've had with this particular Glock build. And like literally everything is there's nothing OEM in this, I should say, as opposed to that other Glock build. Everything is titanium nitride. Safety plunger and firing pin, I think, OEM. That's the only thing, but everything else is completely changed, from the extractor, depressor, plunger, recoil spring. Everything is pretty much different on this particular Glock build. But this one's OEM. I kind of wanted to keep at least one OEM Glock, and this is going to be it. But anyway, this has gone on long enough, like most of my videos, but I always like to be thorough. But anyway, guys, one take video. Don't have that many subscribers. I'm not sponsored or anything, but if you guys have made it all the way through, I appreciate it. If you like my video, I appreciate it. Hell, if you even comment on my video, I appreciate it. It really helps my algorithm, at least. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'm not super active on social media, so I try to get back to everybody. I really do. So anyway, thanks for watching and join me next time.